Hey, it's the announcement guy. We're back in the flow here over at the Prayer and Care Center, and I want to remind you that it's zucchini season. So when you come to church on Sunday morning, keep the windows of your cars rolled up. Otherwise, gardeners are going to be putting zucchini in there. Dr. Patty's here, and she's going to tell us a little bit about what happens here at the Prayer and Care Center.
The Prayer Care Center is located in the Teal Sanctuary, right off the lobby, and we are here to support our ministry of prayer and also the care ministry aspect. We're staffed by our wonderful practitioners, and they've been doing an awesome job doing counseling by Zoom. But I feel that the Prayer Care Center is the heart of Mile High Church, and you are too.
All right, here's what's coming up, and here's more information about the Prayer and Care Center.
Affirmative prayer is the bedrock of our teaching. Our licensed prayer practitioners offer prayers for any challenge. No condition too small to receive support, and no dream is too big to be empowered. Prayer requests can be submitted online or on the website. We offer one-on-one support sessions as a sacred time to be heard, encouraged, and spiritually guided by a licensed prayer practitioner. No concern or challenge is too small, such as health, relationships, anxiety, depression, grief, career, finances. And the Wisdom Keepers, they are back in person. And if you are 55 years old or wiser, in those fun years of your life, join in for a great time at the Wisdom Keepers' first in-person luncheon of the year. Enjoy meditation, lunch, and a dynamic presentation by our very own Dr. Michelle Medrano on Thursday, September 16th at 11 a.m. So contact the Prayer and Care Center for event details, to submit a prayer request, or schedule a support session.
So we're back here at the Prayer and Care Center. We want to invite you to come on by here if you're at church on a Sunday, or give us a call if you could use some prayer support during the week. Great to be here with you. Have a great week.
Can I have that?
Sure.
Thanks.
Sure. But you can't give it back.
Okay.
Hello, Mile High. Happy Sunday to you. We're going to get the energy moving this morning, okay? Coming down around the world. Are you ready for a brand new beat? Summer's here and the time is right for dancing in the street, dancing in Chicago, down in New Orleans, New York City. All we need is music, sweet music.
dancing in the aisles here at Mile High Church, right? As well as the streets. Good morning. Welcome, welcome to spiritual community right here in our beautiful teal sanctuary at Mile High Church and online for those of you who are joining us there. We are thrilled to be together on this beautiful morning. Thank you for being here with us. I want to especially thank you for the love and prayers and many cards and emails that I have personally received. My father made his transition a few weeks ago, and it's been very sweet to be supported by our community. I know that Jennifer Burnett's father also made his transition recently, and I know she has also felt the wonderful support of our community. And not only do we get that if we're a minister or a very well-known and beloved singer and performer in the community, what I love about spiritual community is that if we're willing to be open to it, we can always be supported and lifted up. In our darkest moments, in our most challenging moments, in our most joyous moments, what I love about this community, about Mile High Church, is that people are willing to love us, to be with us, to support us, to pray for us, to just send love to us no matter what's going on. And that's one of the greatest things about this place. So thank you to all of you for not only supporting me, but supporting each other. Thank you to our prayer and care center, to our practitioners, to our loving staff. We are beloved community, and it's good. It's very, very good. And to remind us of that, yes, we can applaud that. I think we can applaud that. To remind us even more deeply about the truth of who we are as a community, we love to stop and share our vision and mission together. I invite us to speak these words and feel the resonance of them in our being as we speak them aloud together. So let's start with our vision. Oneness revealed. A world of love, peace, and abundance for all. And our mission to serve as a spiritual beacon for personal empowerment and global enlightenment. And I can tell you, I would love nothing more than if those realities came to pass on this planet, in this community. How about you? Wouldn't that be great? Yeah. So we are all a part of affirming them and bringing them forth as we share community together. And one of the ways we can do that right now is through prayer. So we're going to step into some prayer time. We invite you to take a deep breath, to go within. We're going to sing together, have a little bit of silence together. And then the beloved, beautiful Reverend Jackie Harris is going to lift us in prayer. Let us begin.
Surely the presence of God is in this place. I can feel the mighty power and the grace. I can hear the brush of angel wings. I see glory on each face. Surely the presence of God is in this place. Surely the presence of God is in this place. I can feel the mighty power
as we sit in this beautiful silence, we take a moment to feel God in this place. Spirit, the divine, moving in and through this room and in and through each individual in this room and online who can hear the sound of my voice, knowing God is right there too. In the miracle of technology in this century. Thank you, God. Thank you, God, for allowing this to be. And we know there are so many things to be thankful for in our lives and in this world. And right now, I'm so thankful for our young people who are returning to school, who get to be with each other, to get to have that community time together. And I know God is right in the center of this, holding each teacher and each student so that it is a time of growth for each one. And specifically for our CEC, our Children's Enrichment Center, which is opening this week, I know God is in that place. And to be able to have those young voices, those feelings that so often we've lost as adults, to know the impact that's being made on those lives. I'm thankful for those teachers also. I'm thankful for our healthcare workers who continue to do a yeoman's job in the midst of this pandemic. Thank you, Spirit. Give them the grace they need and the peace they need in this interesting time. And now I consider the world, and I know we still have so much going on in this world that needs healing. And I know God can do that, so I send out a special prayer to Afghanistan, that each person who is in that place right now feels the power of God. And that in the midst of the conflict, at some point, people feel the oneness. They recognize the oneness, and they know that peace is possible if we allow God, the sacred, to be in control. So now I'm thankful for this service. I'm thankful for the message, and I know that each person who hears this message and hears and feels this music, I know they are touched, and they walk away with a new feeling of how to listen to that intuitive voice, that voice that's always speaking to us. Thank you, God, for the truth of this prayer. Thank you, God, for this space we call Mile High Church. Thank you, thank you. From deep gratitude we say, and so it is.
Pray to be more willing for my God. I pray to be more willing for my God. I pray to be more willing, God always fulfilling, needs me ever willing in my heart. Oh God, my help in times of trouble. Oh God, my joy. Oh God, my peace. As I stand on the promise of your love, to be more willing for my God. I pray to be more willing for my God. I pray to be more willing for my God.
Our first reading this morning is from Sue Monk Kidd. You create a path of your own by looking within yourself and listening to your soul, cultivating your own ways of experiencing the sacred and then practicing it. Practicing it until you make it a song that sings you. And from Frederick Buechner, listen to your life. See it for the fathomless mystery that it is. In the boredom and pain of it, no less than in the excitement and gladness. Touch, taste, smell your way to the holy and hidden heart of it, because in the last analysis, all moments are key moments, and life itself is grace.
Young girl, don't cry. I'll be right here when your world starts to fall. Young boy, it's alright. Your tears will dry. You'll soon be free to fly. When you're safe inside your room, you tend to dream of a place where nothing's harder than it seems. No one ever wants or bothers to explain of the heartache life can bring and what it means when there's no one else. Look inside yourself like your oldest friend. Trust the voice within, then you'll find the strength that will guide your way. If you learn to begin to trust the voice within. Young girl, don't hide, you'll never change if you just run away. Young boy, just hold tight. Soon you're gonna see a brighter day. Now in a world where innocence is quickly claimed, it's so hard to find your ground when you're so afraid. No one reaches out a hand for you to hold. But when you look outside, look inside to your soul. When there's no one else, look inside yourself like your oldest friend. Trust the voice within, then you'll find the strength that will guide your way. You learn to begin to trust
The amazing Jennifer Burnett. Thank you, Jennifer. Oh, that was beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. And our wonderful band, Rob and Stu and Michael and Bijou. Aren't we blessed? My goodness. Trust the voice within. That's a great message, and the message that we're talking about today. This talk today is the first part of a two-part series. We are basing it on a wonderful initiative that has been weaving itself through the life of our community this year. It's called the Evolved Communication Initiative, and you can see that this is the slide from our web page. If you have not visited there yet, you can go to milehighchurch.org, and at the very top of our webpage, you'll see a little blue sliver that'll say, check here for the Evolved Communications materials, and when you click there, there's video content, there's written content. It's all about us working together as a community to continue to be beings who walk through our life, every part of it, being able to communicate from that evolutionary place of the divine nature of ourselves. And these two messages, today and next week, are connected to one of my favorite parts about the Evolved Communication Initiative. It has to do with the inner aspect of me. And in the inner evolutionary journey for communication, it says, I want to listen more intently and compassionately to myself. That we hold as a high value, an important thing to be evolved beings on this planet, that we are listening to ourselves intently, compassionately. And so we're practicing that today with this two-part series, which is called The Art of Sacred Listening. The Art of Sacred Listening. And today we're talking about the inner voice, listening to the inner voice. Next week we'll be talking about the outer voice. How do you listen compassionately and sacredly to all the voices out there? But today, let's focus on us, this voice, this inner voice within us. We do have an inner voice. It's a conglomeration, right, of all of our experiences, all of our decisions, all of the moments we've drawn conclusions, all of the relationships we've had, all of the good, bad, and the ugly that we've experienced in our lives. And often that inner voice then speaks to us, urges us, guides us, supports us, cajoles us, challenges us, in any way that we have those thoughts that it's like, well, should I do this? And I should do that. Maybe I should do this. And then that voice that talks to us, it rises up during our regular life experience. It's present almost constantly. It's broadcasting almost constantly. And I would say sometimes we're more aware of the inner voice than others. Sometimes we're very aware of it. Sometimes it shouts at us. But what's really true for me ultimately in the first part here that I want to convey is that our founder, Ernest Holmes, had a phrase that he said that we say a lot around here. He said, change your thinking, change your life. Well, I assert that if we want to change our thinking and change our life, we have to know what we're thinking. And we have to be able to sort what we're thinking that supports us and what we're thinking that doesn't. We have to find the difference between the inner voice that is based on maybe our painful past, our dysfunctional past, our not so functional reality versus the deeper voice within us. That's part of the evolutionary journey and is a huge part of evolved communications. In other words, that if I am in a condition or situation where I'm communicating from the evolved part of me, I'm not communicating from my painful past. When I'm communicating from my painful past, I'm often having assumptions, telling myself stories about the people that I'm talking to. I might even be communicating in a rude or unloving or unkind way because my own inner voice is still struggling to find my center. Whereas when I'm in the evolutionary place of communicating and hearing my centered voice, I can resolve conflicts, speak to people, have relationships that are more grounded and centered. But I have to do the work to distinguish the difference. And that's a huge part of what we do here at Mile High Church. As we come to services on Sundays and Wednesdays, as we go to classes and workshops, as we work with our practitioner prayer partners, get support from them, and go to the prayer and care center, as Dr. Patty mentioned in her video, All of this is about helping people to set aside the inner voice that no longer serves us in favor of the very centered aspect of the inner voice, the inner aspect of us that can serve and guide and support us in our daily lives if we feed it and nurture it and pay attention to it and allow it and begin to understand the difference between it and that other voice. So let's start with a conversation about that other voice. That voice I'm calling the voice of our unhealed past. The voice of our unhealed past. Imagine that we leave today from here and we all get into our automobiles, and those of us who are driving start to drive home, but we only look in our rearview mirror as we drive. We never look at the window going forward. We just walk. The rearview mirror determines how we turn, we're gonna crunch our car, aren't we? We might hurt someone. We're gonna hit a tree. We're not gonna be we're gonna swerve all over the road. We're gonna cause some damage. That's what's happening as human beings when all we ever do is try to move forward in communicating with people, but we're looking in the rearview mirror of our past. Well, in the past, men bosses I've had have treated me badly, so I'm going to respond from there. In the past, I've been hurt before in situations like this, so I'm going to respond from there. In the past, someone broke my heart in this situation, so I'm going to respond from there. We're going to crunch ourselves. We're going to crunch our lives. We're going to crunch our relationships. We are going to crash and burn. But it's very automatic, isn't it? Because that voice is a deeper voice inside of us sometimes that is not only where we react from, but in our teaching, if that's the voice that we're constantly listening to, the voice of our pain, the voice of our previous suffering, the voice of our hurt, the voice of the betrayal we've experienced, not only will we react from that, but we will continue to co-create from that. Because that will be the primary voice that we'll be listening to as we're thinking about our life. That we're in defense of, well, I don't want to go there because it could happen again. That pain could happen again. We're constantly on the watch. And we're creating a life that's based on that dysfunctional past pain. That stuff from before. And therefore, we're almost a magnet for it, quite frankly. We're almost a magnet for more of it. The more we give into it, the more that's the voice we listen to, the more that's the voice that we come from when we communicate with people. We get more of it. It's just what happens and how life works. It's almost like a set point in our consciousness. In the medical world, sometimes they talk about the set point of your body weight, that each of us has throughout our lives different set points that our body lands on. That could be true, but what I was just thinking about yesterday and discovering is that I was honored to teach a class with some ministerial students and listening to talks. It was about speaking. And one of them, Erica Satie, gave a talk where she reminded me of a great story from the late, great Eric Butterworth, who wrote the book Spiritual Economics. And he talks about the set point we have in consciousness. And he tells a story that was a true story about a salesman, a young salesman, that joined a company. And the management was very happy to have this young, enthusiastic salesman with them. So they put him in one of the most wealthy districts or parts of their company to do his sales work there. And they were so excited that this kid is going to just sell lots of stuff. And at the end of the year, the kid had sold $25,000. He'd made $25,000. And they were a little disappointed. They actually had more hopes and thought he would do a lot better. So they said, well, let's put him in a more reasonable territory. So they put him in a part of their territory that people were more in the middle to lower class, and it might be harder to sell, but he might fit in better, they thought there. So they put him in that territory, and a year later they checked in on him, and he'd made $25,000. Well, they were very excited because, boy, to make $25,000 in that territory, that's just amazing. It was miraculous. It was like they were so excited. This kid is amazing. Let's put him back in the territory where there's wealthy people. So they put him back there, and after a year, they checked in on him, and guess how much he'd sold? $25,000. He had a set point. He had beliefs about himself as a person. He had beliefs about himself and his worth that only allowed him to be guided to do what was necessary to make $25,000. Now, of course, Eric Butterworth's point in this, and my point in this, is that we have to be willing to take a look at those patterns that show up in our life that reveal to us what's happening in our deeper mind. And we have to be willing then to confront them lovingly, to affirm ourselves beyond them, to sometimes do forgiveness work of people who possibly implanted those ideas in our minds about us, whether it's about our health or our wealth or our ability to be loved or our ability to be successful, that we have to pay attention. One of the greatest gifts I think this teaching has ever given me is the ability to pay attention to what I'm thinking. And then not only pay attention to and hear what I'm thinking, but to lovingly challenge it. To say, is that what I really want to be believing about myself? Is that idea really going to serve me in having the life I want to live and in going out and serving other people? Because I don't think it is, and I think it's time for me to give it up. And then get about doing the work that I need to do to give it up. That's been a huge part of my growth and a huge part of what we can do to grow ourselves. Once we begin to clear some of that away, what can begin to happen then is that we begin to go beyond the voice of our unhealed past and begin to hear the voice of our higher self. I believe the voice of our higher self is the aspect of us that is connected to the all that is. The voice that can guide us profoundly and powerfully through this life in making decisions, in communicating, in making choices, in prayerfulness, in building our future, what we want to really be thinking about ourselves. But here's the thing about that voice. Part of the distinction we have to make is that we have to understand that this voice will always speak to us very kindly and lovingly. So here's one way to distinguish between the voice of the unhealed past and the voice of the higher self. The voice of the higher self will never say, "You idiot, you're going the wrong way." It will never say, "What's wrong with you, stupid?" It will never say, "Cut it out. You're crazy. It will never cajole us. It will never belittle us. It will never be angry with us. It will never be critical of us. It will never be the voice that is mean to us or forceful to us in any way, shape, or form. It might be energetic. It might be run if I'm in danger. It might be go left now if I need to go left now. It might be don't get on that plane. It might be a strong, intentional voice, but it will never be critical. That's one way to know. Anytime there's a voice in our head that is calling us names or doing any of that other stuff, that's the voice of the unhealed past. That's the voice of your mother or your grandmother or someone who was tough on you that we take on and that we use to manage ourselves, but it's not the clearest voice, and we must beware of following its directions. But the voice of our innermost self will always be clear. But I do have to also say, I need to be honest about this. The voice of our highest self will sometimes challenge us into things that aren't so perfect. We think, sometimes one of the reasons some of us have abandoned the voice of our highest self is that we think the voice of the highest self should always be the voice of like puppies and rainbows and happiness. But we, as human beings, come here to grow and evolve. The voice of our highest self can lead us into challenges. It can say, yeah, that's the right guy, go for it. Boy, are they going to grow with that relationship. That's just the truth of it. And so what we have to have, along with being with that voice of the highest self, is an understanding that we're always where we're supposed to be, especially when we listen to that voice. The voice of the highest self can also, when we follow it and we become obedient to it and willing to listen to it, can cause people to think we're a little bit crazy. because it may challenge us and invite us to do things that other people, and that's what we'll deal with next week, would go, what are you doing? My friend Tara calls me a woo-woo wackadoo. And I gratefully accept that label. I am a woo-woo wackadoo. I follow my inner voice, right? And it has gotten me into all sorts of interesting situations. And it has guided me profoundly. One of the most profound and woo-woo experiences I ever had with this voice is that when I was 18, I did hear a voice that wasn't my inner voice, I don't think. I don't know where it came from, encouraging me to be a minister. I've told the story many times that I resisted it and resisted it and resisted it, thought it was dumb, didn't want to do it. Then when I got into practitioner training, I had this surrender moment where I realized, oh, that is my higher voice. That is what I'm supposed to be doing. So I said yes. I signed up for classes. I was at that point when you were in practitioner training, you could maybe take a class here and there in the school. So I'd signed up for classes, but I was being plagued by that unhealed past voice that was saying, you know, you're not really worthy. Who do you think you are? You're going to be a minister? If they knew who you really were, you know, I don't think you should do it. You're pretty damaged. You're not worthy. And so I was doing a lot of personal work to try to quell this inner voice. I was trying to forgive everyone in my life, whoever thought I was unworthy or told me I wasn't. I was doing a lot of classes and workshops here. There was a workshop that I heard about that was going to be in Huntington Beach with Jean Houston, whom I love and adore and admire greatly. And I felt guided to go to that workshop. So I signed up for the workshop. I flew to Huntington Beach. It was in this big, huge shishi Hilton hotel right on the coast. And when I got there for this week-long workshop with Jean, there were a number of luminaries who had also signed up for the workshop. Louise Hay was there. Mark Victor Hansen, Chicken Soup for the Soul guy, was there. A number of ministers in our New Thought movement that I admired greatly and would soon become my colleagues were there. I had no clue what I was getting into, but I was like, wow, cool people are here. And I went into the workshop, and here's what the workshop was. Jean had us, for the first half of the week, exploring the life of Buddha. Now, this was not an intellectual, let's talk about Buddha, or let's meditate on the Buddha. No, this was a put you into groups, break you up, and have you go all over the hotel and live out the awakening moments of Buddha. Pretend that you're sitting under the Bodhi tree and feel the enlightenment that comes. And so for the first week, we were scattered all over the hotel, in the lobby and at the pool and everywhere, meditating, which some of the other people thought was a little strange. But then the second half of the week, we were living out the life of Jesus. From the moment that he was baptized by John the Baptist, which we were baptizing each other in the swimming pool, and at one point going through the hallways, carrying our crosses through the lobby of the hotel. And these poor Shishi Hilton people were like, what the heck are these guys doing? It was very, very different. I didn't know what to make of it. It was kind of interesting and fun, but I started having these dreams at the end of the workshop. These dreams were of this woman. She was white-haired. I'd never seen her before, but she was coming to my dream every night, and she would lecture me about how I was worthy, how it was time, how I needed to be a minister, that it was my path, that I should accept it every single night. I came home here. I was living in an apartment just a few blocks from here, and I'm having these dreams every night. And I'd wake up every day going, okay, but who are you, lady? I don't know who this lady is. And I went to a class that was being taught by Dr. Kathy Vogt. It was about Ernest Holmes and his life and times. She hands me the workbook. I open the workbook. There's a picture of the lady, a little white-haired older lady. And I looked up with big eyes. I felt this chill go through me, and I said to Dr. Kathy, who's this woman? And she said, that's Ernest Holmes' mother, Anna. I'm getting a chill right now as I'm telling you the story. It was so, there she is. There's a picture of sweet little Anna Holmes. It was so woo-woo wackadoo. But I think it also was my higher self calling me to the truth. So our higher self, connected to the all that is, the synchronicity of everything that has ever been, ever was, ever shall be, speaks to us in our dreams. It speaks to us in our meditations. It speaks to us in these flashes of awakening. Our job is to accept that this is the truth of who we are, to listen to it and begin to allow it to support and guide us. I don't think it's that different than the third voice within us, which is the voice of the divine. The voice of the divine and our highest self, I believe, are one. And we have access always to the voice of the divine, to that which we call God or Spirit or the infinite. We know that luminaries throughout the ages have heard very profoundly from the voice of God. Moses, hearing the voice of God, guiding him to go free his people, who was a little bit unsure about the voice and sometimes wanted to listen more to Aaron's voice than his voice, but eventually began to listen profoundly and do what was called of him to make a huge difference in the world. Jesus, who listened throughout his life to the voice of God, to the presence of God, that even guided him towards the manifestation of his transition beyond this earth plane, was so obedient to listen to that voice. That voice that God is as us guides us, especially as we clear away the clouds of the part of us that is constantly listening to our past. Ernest Holmes says to us in this thing called you, the spirit is happy, whole, free, filled with joy, eternal in its existence, and can provide you with everlasting expansion. All your highest hopes and dreams have come from it. The echo of its being is in your intellect. The voice of its unspoken word is in your mind. The feeling of its light and life is in your heart. The emotion of its imagination is in your soul. When we start to give more to that, more energy, more listening, more attention, more awareness, we are clear about what is ours to do. I saw a meme this week on the Facebook page of Reverend Michelle Scavetta here at Mile High Church that said, some things don't need prayer, they need discipline. God already told you what to do. You're just procrastinating. I think that's often the truth. So here are 5 things that we can do to listen to our inner voice, to really access it this week. The first one is silence. In our busy, wacky world where there's so much going on, taking time just for a little silence, just even for the intentionality of listening, can be so important. I do that a lot of times by just simply driving someplace with no music or no radio or no podcast playing. Just drive and just be still and listen to what comes up. Silence is important for those of us who truly want to start listening to our inner voice. Some people say, well, silence is creepy. I don't like it. I think that's partly because when we're in that silence, we sometimes do feel the deep, profound energy of that deeper voice within us, that higher self speaking, and we don't always know what to do because we're afraid it's a little woo-woo wackadoo. But I'm telling you, silence is worth that woo-woo. And so just having a little bit of silence every day can be such a gift. The next one, of course, is journaling, writing in a book someplace, just opening, especially allowing ourselves, if we're looking for guidance, to ask questions. I'm thinking about taking this new job. What do we think of this? And just writing what comes out. I feel called to quit my job and move into my own business. Is that a good idea? And just write what comes out without editing it, just letting ourselves just write, and then allowing ourselves to see what we have witnessed coming forth through us. It's very safe because we don't have to do it necessarily, but we get to listen to it. And when we start to see the patterns that come out, we often can say, okay, I think that's my higher self, urging me to step forward, urging me to move forward. The next one for me is obey the flashes. As I'm growing older and more independent and free-thinking, I admit I'm not always the most obedient person on the planet. But I've come to say to myself, look, my guidance is important to me. So the flashes that come to me, I will make note of, I will write them down, and I will be obedient, even if they seem insignificant and minuscule. To drive home from church today, get in my car and start going a certain direction, and have that inner voice go a different way today. Okay, I will be obedient to that. I don't even know sometimes that it made any difference or that it was important, but it's important that I simply say, okay, I'm listening, I hear you. Just like in any important relationship, if you love someone and they're asking you to listen to them and you constantly put your hand up and don't listen to them and won't even acknowledge what they're saying or really be with them, you're going to possibly face losing the relationship because we want to be heard. Well, our inner voice, our deepest self, is constantly speaking to us in those flashes of inspiration. Sometimes that's the first way it communicates to get through that voice of this dysfunctional past, of the unhealed past. So those of us who will listen to those flashes and go, okay, I'll do that. I won't go that way. Okay, I'll call that person. Okay, I'll write that note. Okay, the more we listen and are obedient, the more we get it. The more it breaks through, the more it becomes our reality. I know when I'm wanting to create a talk or work on a class or be creative, I sometimes get stuck or lost. I get caught up in life. And I've noticed in my life there's this area that I can learn to be very open if I take a walk, or I take a drive, or I take a shower, or I soak in a bathtub or a hot tub. A lot of times I get these flashes of inspiration and great ideas. So I invite consideration of that. And then the last one, of course, is meditation. Those of us who say we want a relationship with our divine nature are dedicated meditators. This is one of the main ways that we make ourselves available for that divine voice, for that inner voice that wants so much to guide us. We take time to sit our little butt down and be still and just be quiet. Light a candle, play music if you want, but meditation is all about, it's very similar to silence, it's all about, I am here. There are all these verses in the Bible where God calls out to some person and that person answers, here am I. And meditation is exactly like that. It's like we're broadcasting to the universe and to our highest self, I am here. What would you have me be and do today? And that higher voice becomes our reality. In the absence of these things, we will be tempted for the rest of our lives to be guided by the voice of our unhealed past. I'm urging us this week to practice one or all of these and feel the difference that being guided from that inner voice within can make on our behalf. Please join me as we pray now. Together, recognizing the power and the presence of the divine light and life that is absolutely expressing itself, singing its song, reverberating through this universe. That beautiful presence that is everywhere in everything and is truly right here, right now, in this very space, in this room, in this prayer, in the voice that I am speaking with, and in the voice that exists within each one of us, that is the true north, that is the center of us, the highest self of us, the guiding force of our beingness. I accept and affirm in this prayerful moment that each one of us is inspired this week to go forth hearing that deep voice, allowing that deep inner voice to be a guiding source and force in our lives, in small ways, in big ways, in important ways, in ways that truly serve us, uplift us, and allow us to live our greatest life in communication and love with all beings whom we come in contact with. I accept and affirm this truth is ours now. And I give thanks. I give joyous thanks for this reality of beingness. As I release this prayer into the action of the law that makes it so, I let go in faith and trust. And oh, I know it is done. And I simply let it be. And so it is. Amen.
is just a dead thing you can claim. But I know every rock and tree and creature has a life, has a spirit, has a name. You think the only people who are people are the people who look and think like you. But if you walk the footsteps of a stranger, you'll learn things you never never knew. Have you ever heard the wolf cry to the blue corn moon, or asked the grinning bobcat why he grins? Can you sing with all the voices of the mountain? Can you paint with all the colors of the wind? Can you paint with all the colors of the wind? Come run the hidden pine trails of the forest. Come taste the sun-sweet berries of the earth. Come roll in all the riches all around you, and for once never wonder what they're worth. The rainstorm and the river are my brothers. The heron and the otter are my friends, and we are all connected to each other in a circle, in a hoop that never ends. How does the sycamore grow? If you cut it down, then you'll never know. And you'll never hear the wolf cry to the blue corn moon, for whether we are white or copper skinned, we need to sing with all the voices of the mountain, need to paint with all the colors of the wind. You can own the earth and still all you'll own is earth until you can paint with all the colors of the wind.
Jennifer, that was beautiful. Thank you so much. Oh, we are so wealthy here. It's so good to have such beauty and grace present. I also want to acknowledge that it's a special day here. Later on, we're going to tell you about our annual meeting, but I want to acknowledge that we've had a group of people who have been stewards of this community in a very profound way this past year. That is our Board of Trustees, as they have loved us, supported us, stood as witness to all that is happening and has been happening in our community, have represented the members of this community in powerful, profound ways, helped us be accountable and be in integrity and stand in wholeness. And so we are grateful for our wonderful Board of Trustees. And so those of you who've served in this past year on the board, I know a number of you are here today, I invite you to stand now so we can acknowledge and celebrate you. Board members, thank you so much. Wonderful. And I'll tell you more about that meeting later on. I also invite us now to just take a moment to remember the abundance in which we live. The opportunity that we have to share tithes and offerings always reminds me to take a moment to acknowledge that I live in the circle of abundance, the circle of life, the constant flow of good into my life, and that as I surrender any of that good into the flow, that I am acknowledging that and making welcome more of it. And so as we prepare to give through tithes and offerings, whether you're going to text a gift now, text it later, go online later, send us a check later, drop a check in the baskets that are about to be passed, or drop something in the baskets as you leave. Whatever way that you may do this, I invite us into the celebration of that circle, and let's say our affirmation together as we prepare to give that gift. Divine love, as me, blesses and multiplies all that I am, all that I have, and all that I circulate. And so it is.
Into the window of my mind, reflection of the fear I know I left behind. I step out of the ordinary, I can feel my soul ascending. I'm on my way, can't stop me now, and you can do the same, yeah. What have you done today to make you feel proud? What have you done today to make you feel proud? You could be so many people if you make that break for freedom. What have you done today to make you feel proud? There's still so many answers I don't know. I realize that to question is how we grow. So I step out of the ordinary. I can feel my soul ascending. I'm on my way, can't stop me now, and you can do the same, yeah. What have you done today to make you feel proud? It's never too late to try. What have you done today to make you feel proud? You could be so many people if you make that break for freedom. What have you done today to make you feel proud? We need a change, so do it today. I can feel my spirit rise and change. We need a change, so do it today. I can see a clear horizon. What have you done today? What have you done today to make you feel proud? Whoa. You could be so many people if you make that break for freedom. What have you done today to make you feel proud? What have you done today to make you feel proud? What have you done? What have you done today? What have you done today to make you feel proud? Whoa. You could be so many people if you make that
Thank you, Jennifer Burnett and our Mile High Band. Thank you, Dr. Michelle, for listening to all the voices within you and sharing them with us today. Anyone here new to our church in the last few weeks? We're not going to do anything weird to you or anything. It's good to see you. We introduce you.
Yay,
Welcome. Great to
wonderful.
have you here. We're thrilled that you're here, and I'm going to be in our Welcome Center just right after services in the middle of the lobby. Those of you who are watching online, check us out on milehighchurch.org. But we're just so glad that you're here, and we'd love to greet you and get to know you a little bit and answer any questions you may have. These incredible folks coming to the front of the stage area here are our prayer practitioners. They are here to help you remember the truth of who you are and set a creative law into motion for demonstrating powerful things for your life. So give yourself that gift of prayer after service, or you can fill out a prayer request online.
And I want to acknowledge today, before we leave, that we have a wonderful production team member who's been the director of our lights, who's leaving to go get a master's degree in California today. We want to thank Will Melendez for his wonderful service to us. Thank you, Will. Done a beautiful job, brilliant job. We will miss you. Thank you. And we want you to know, as I mentioned, that our annual meeting is happening at noon over in the Vote Center auditorium. If you're a member, it means you have a vote, and you get to vote on bringing in new trustees to our board today. And if you're a non-member, you're more than welcome to be with us. You just don't get to vote for those trustees. Everyone gets to hear about the state of our community, how we're doing financially, how we see ourselves moving forward in the future, hear from our trustees, and all sorts of good things. So we hope you'll be there at noon with us today. And we want you to know that this Wednesday night, Reverend Simon Shadowlight is starting a 3-week series I'm looking forward to, Creating the Life Your Heart Has Been Waiting For. If that resonates with you, be right here with us Wednesday night at 7 o'clock. And now I invite you to stand before we sing the peace song. Let's affirm together that we go forth in love and light with our inner voice fully intact, hearing it, listening to it, abiding by it, being guided by it. We are blessed, and so it is.
Let there be peace on earth, the peace that